Hello, dear ones. Oh, how's everyone doing? Well, I'm not sitting on the land today, but I'm sitting with some of my dearest and some of my oldest friends. Some of these friends have been with me for a couple of decades, so just feeling into love, the love of all the beings that are here. And as always, I'm just through my heart expanding into this sacred space that's around me, and feeling so much gratitude that I'm here on this earth plane, having this experience and challenging myself to grow and learn, and sharing what I'm learning with you guys. And so blessed to be here at the same time as you on this planet. So one of the things I want to talk today about, well, the main thing I want to talk today about is self-care. Now, we all know how important it is to be doing self-care, but I want to talk about what I think is like the most radical form of self-care, which is anchoring yourself into the present moment, heart-centered, moment-to-moment experience that you're having in like I said, every moment. It's really this coming into this aligned, centered, awareness of your experience in every now moment. So I like to think about it as being the observer of your human, observing your human experience, which is like your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs and your emotions, everything that's arising in your human experience, seeing that with real curiosity and being the observer. So when you're consciously engaged in this moment-to-moment experience of your life, you cannot be hijacked by your amygdala. So I know you're asking, what the heck is your amygdala? And I'm so glad that you've asked. So let's go into a little bit of the science of what the amygdala is. And I'm going to explain about this. So we're going to be talking about the brain, because that's where the amygdala lives, in the brain. And then I'm going to talk about some of the practice associated with not being hijacked by the amygdala. And then I'm going to bring it all back into the heart-centered experience and practice that's weaving through my life of the portal of the heart, okay? So a little bit of the science. So the amygdala, which is Greek for almond, so we have two of them, one in either side of the hemisphere of our brain, in the temporal lobe. One in each hemisphere, and they form part of our limbic system, and it is believed to be one of the oldest parts of our brain. In fact, it is what's been able to keep our species alive for as long as it is, because it's the part of the brain that has to do with survival. So early humans developed this fight or flight response to deal with like real threats in their lives. And like I said, they believe that it's to be one of the earliest parts of the brain to develop. So let me show you, got a little diagram here, and it's very confusing. Oh my goodness, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it or like take like a quick like screenshot of it. But let me just go through it with you, because it's so interesting. So what happens in your human experience? You have some sort of sensory, so it starts at the top here. You have some sort of sensory stimulus, and that's captured by one of your senses. So your sight, sound, touch, smell, taste, right? One of your senses then captures that sensory experience, and now it's dropped into your brain. So it comes into your thalamus, into this one area of your brain, which is sort of like your sensory pickup zone. And then from there, it's now supposed to drop into your prefrontal cortex. Now, your prefrontal cortex is a major big deal. It's what they call like the newer part of your brain, like not newer in our lifetime, we're talking about long ago, but it is a newer part of our brain. It's rational part of our brain. It's more advanced part of the brain system, and it is your reasoning, your planning, processing your emotions, decision making, and it's consciously controlled by you. So it really is an important part of the brain that you want to be functioning from. So back to our little diagram. So this information then drops into your prefrontal cortex, and then quickly there's a decision, an evaluation that has to happen. Is this information that's coming in a threat to the human or not? Now, if it's not a threat to a human, great. You carry on, your central nervous system carries on in the state that it should be in, like 98% of the time, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's ease, rest, and digest. It's where your body naturally produces opioids and oxytocin, and that's your inner peace and calm, and that's how I'm feeling right now. And they say this is the state that you should be in the majority of the time. Now, let's say that it is a threat that's dropping in. Saber-toothed tiger is going to get you. You better run. So then what happens is this is where your amygdala comes in. So your amygdala causes reaction of your sympathetic nervous system. So that's your fight, flight, freeze. Your body produces stress hormones, primarily being cortisol and epinephrine, which causes a whole chain of reaction in your body for you to be able to run faster, heartbeat beat faster, lungs breathe more, everything for the human to be able to survive. Now, what is really interesting, this is a really interesting point I found, is that, I don't know if you can see this, your brain does not know the difference between a real threat, saber-toothed tiger, or a perceived threat created from the mind. So what are perceived threats created by the mind? So here we're talking about the internal mind. So that's things like memories, past recall. So I'm talking about things that basically don't feel good in your body, not like pleasant memories. So memories that don't bring good, like recall back. So past recall of situations that didn't feel good, anger, self-doubt, judgment, intense inner turmoil. These are all things in your mind that you're consciously thinking about. Anxiety, overwhelm, stories that are looping around in your mind, resentment of someone or a situation, impatience that you're feeling. So, or triggers, that's another one. So is that anything that you can sort of feel into a little bit? So and the thing is that all these things of our mind are actually things that we're able to control. So back to the diagram where I'm saying your brain doesn't recognize like a threat from the outside and a threat from the inside, being your mind. And this is what amygdala hijack is. So if you're dealing with one of these internal mind situations, you're thinking about something that happened in the past or something that's just really irritating to you now or whatever it is. So again, that thought is in your mind, and instead of going to your prefrontal cortex that will think about it rationally, like, oh, hold on here, like, let's just take a breath, shall we? Or, do some rational decision making. It doesn't go to your prefrontal cortex. It hijacks. It goes straight to your amygdala, and your amygdala kicks into stress mode. And this is what you'll have, this bodily sensation that you'll feel like your heart's beating faster. You feel like a little bit sweaty, like you're breathing faster. You just like you're losing like mental clarity. You just can't be thinking properly and rationally. And so this is the amygdala hijack. I'll just make sure that I've covered everything on there properly. Oh yeah, and the other really interesting thing is that the more that you have these mind thoughts, I said the amygdala hijack, the more that happens in your body, these sort of repeated patterns, that actually neural network strengthens. So that little hijack going going away, missing your prefrontal cortex altogether, that pathway strengthens and strengthens and strengthens. And then the actual prefrontal cortex weakens and weakens and weakens. So you actually are like training your brain, which is amazing that we can do that. But I'm talking about radical self-care. And in terms of the brain, I'm trying to explain to you of how we can actually retrain our brain. So what is a practice and how do we do this? Well, for the most radical form of self-care is to come into what I'm saying, this heart-centered presence, in order to be able to access your intuitive wisdom and let your intuition, your sacred gift, your superpower guide you. So how do you do this? Well, the easiest thing, first of all, is just to have the recognition of your mind and come into your breath, right? Just slow your breath down. Try and take just a few real conscious breaths. And the slower you can do your inhale and exhale, the better. Because what's actually happening when you slow down your breath is that you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So if you've had the hijack happen and you're in this state of anxiety and overwhelm and your heart is pumping and all this experience, drop into your breath, and that activates your vagal nerve, which takes you into parasympathetic. And while you're doing that, then become real curious about just observing your human. And I really like the analogy of observing your human. So what you're thinking, what you're feeling, without any sense of judgment for yourself at all, just real curiosity and observation. And I referred to this before. It's from Tara Brach, The Sacred Pause, and this has been so helpful in my life about thinking about the sacredness, the sacred pause, just stopping everything and just coming into your breath body, and it just creates like some separation. So, and when you're doing this slow breathing, I've talked about heart coherence, which is when you're slowing your breath down and now you're able to sort of access your prefrontal cortex, is that remember that your heart actually has 40,000 neurons, right? They call it the little brain. This was discovered not too long ago. And you actually have more information that's going from your heart to your brain than from your brain to your heart. And when you're doing this slow breathing and activating sort of the neural networks that are going from your heart to your brain, you actually can think clearer and just more clarity, more calmness, and just be, more in this sort of present state. So it's all about staying in your heart. Self-care is being aware also of what is shifting within you. When you're feeling like friction or challenges or difficulties and you're aware of it, when you have awareness of these things that are coming up in your life, it's because you're in this state of awakening into your own consciousness. And I know that shifts can be, for sure, like really challenging, right? All the triggers that come up and the friction that you feel and dis-ease that you feel. But I tell you, they're just all gifts. And the more that you're able to recognize of all these gifts that are dropping in for your human to be aware of, the less that you're going to suffer. So try not to work from your primitive mind. Again, this amygdala hijack. Now, the amygdala is good. We want the amygdala in our life, and there's many times the amygdala has actually saved me, because you want to be able to react to things that actually are threatening your survival. But these days we don't have, like, at least myself in my life, I don't have a lot of things that actually threaten my survival. Like when I was hiking in Jasper National Park a couple of years ago, and I felt like I was going to fall off the edge of a mountain, and I was very grateful my amygdala was there to allow me just to sit down and hover on the edge of the cliff while my family happily just tootled across with no fear whatsoever. Anyways, yeah, the amygdala is important, but say it's like 3 to 5% that we actually should be using the amygdala, because the rest of the time we're not dealing with any real threats. We're dealing with the mental threats. So yeah, try to be aware of not working from the primitive mind, to not allow the hijack to happen. And I said, when you're doing this, you're actually accessing higher levels of consciousness, because this is what's happening, is that we are awakening, we are expanding. You are being called to awaken and allow new earth to birth through you. And so I really encourage you to think about not playing old anymore, old patterns, old ways that you are getting hijacked, and to really consider about making a quantum jump, which requires a lot of bravery and a lot of courage to be able to let go of old ways of thinking, old ways of being, of really being in this expanded state where you're watching yourself and consciously being aware of the choices that you're making, the thoughts that you're entertaining. Just to say, we have like 60,000 thoughts a day. And to quote, I love this quote from Einstein, which is, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. However, we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." And I just love that. You know, so remembering how to access the intuitive mind, which is the source of your wisdom and your higher intelligence and your intuition, and it really is your superpower. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is that when you're choosing to consciously be aware of the normal, the trigger, the mental turmoil, you know, the mind, the what I call the threat of your mind. The more that you're doing that and being the human observing it and choosing to actually see something in a different way, or just not do the normal patterns, looping patterns that you're used to, or just being aware of those mental triggers, the more that you do that, you actually strengthen your neural networks to a different way of being. And as we know, you can actually change your brain, right? You can actually grow new neurons, and you can actually create these new neural networks, which you strengthen with you know, repetitive weight. You know, the more that you do it, you know, the stronger that it's going to get. I also love this phrase, neurons that fire together wire together. So strengthening your neural networks. So my dear ones, this is the expansion of your consciousness. This is bridging, like from, they say, the 3D reality, bridging from the 4th into the 5th reality, which is all heart-based, right? I like to think of 3D reality being like our human, our you know, ego sense of self, our false sense of self. And then the 4th and then into the 5th is all heart. It's all living through the heart, which is this beautiful, just divine portal that I've been discovering for myself, which just is the way to the opening of your own consciousness. And so this is our ascension journey, and this is just the beauty of living from the inside out. And you know what? We're coming multidimensional, right? As we're expanding our consciousness, we're also helping shift others, the collective consciousness. So my multidimensional beauties, oh, thank you so much for being here with me. I'm just feeling into the love. So grateful for the learning. So grateful to be able to share with you. I love you. Have a beautiful day.